The pistol that built a century. Truth and myths about the weapon that made us who we are. Hey friends, before you start reading this monumental story, do me a favor. If you love tales where genius, steel, and fate intertwine into something more than just facts, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. I'll be waiting for you in the comments. Write what legendary weapon or invention you want me to cover next. Now get ready. We are diving into the abyss. Have you ever held history in your hands? Not a book, not an archival paper, but a cold, precise, weighted piece of steel that itself became a cause and a witness? Imagine, an object comes into your hands. Its lines are over 100 years old. Its touch to your skin is a touch to an era of world wars, spy passions, and technological revolutions. This object has killed and saved, been a symbol of aggression and a tool of defense. It is the Luger pistol, and everything you know about it is likely incomplete truth, overgrown with Hollywood myths. But the most shocking thing is not even its history. It's how its creation, its fate, and its bullet mirror the entire crazy, bloody, genius history of the 20th century. We will talk not only about the weapon, we will talk about money, about power, about how one engineering idea can turn the economy of entire industries upside down and change the balance of power in the world. And yes, we will take apart, piece by piece, why this pistol, so expensive and complex, ultimately lost, but forever remained the winner in our minds. Hold your breath. We begin. Chapter 1. The Wrong Father, Where It Really Started. It is commonly believed that the Luger story started in 1908. That is a lie. A beautiful, convenient lie. To understand the true birth of the legend, we must go back to the last decade of the 19th century. The world stands on the brink of incredible change. The automobile is a curiosity, the airplane is a dream, and the main technological marvel is becoming automatic weapons. One unrecognized genius participates in this race, Hugo Borchardt. In 1893, he creates the C93 pistol. Imagine not a pistol, but rather a small steel mechanism with an attached grip. It was bulky, awkward, with a peculiar protruding rectangular trigger guard and a flat recoil spring placed on top, right above the barrel. It was a monster, but it was the first practically viable self-loading pistol for a unitary cartridge in the world. Borchardt solved a problem no one before him could: how to use the energy of powder gases for automatic reloading. His pistol was a technological breakthrough but a market failure. Too complex, too expensive, too strange. And here is where our main character enters the scene, George Johann Luger. Not a self-taught lone wolf, but an engineer working for the solid German firm, Ludwig Loewy and Company. His task is not to reinvent the wheel, but to improve, adapt, and make marketable what has already been invented. This is the key point. Luger is not a father in the pure sense. He is a brilliant editor and optimizer, and his editorial revision turned out to be more brilliant than many original works. What did he do? He took Borchardt's clumsy mechanism and made a move that seems simple at first glance. He moved that very capricious flat spring from the top part into the grip, replacing it with a more reliable coil spring. Seems like a small thing, but in engineering, as in architecture, moving a load-bearing structure changes everything. This allowed for a sharp reduction in size, improved balance, and made the weapon truly ergonomic. A new pistol was not simply born. A philosophy of compact, effective personal firearm was born. Think for a second. How many of the greatest things in the world were born not as pure inventions, but as brilliant adaptations? Apple did not invent the smartphone, it made it convenient. Google did not invent search, it made it fast and relevant. So did Luger. He saw potential where others saw only a strange toy. And this is the first lesson this story gives us. Innovation is often not about creating something new, from scratch, but about the ability to see genius in a rough diamond and skillfully cut it. Chapter 2. Birth of a Monster, Parabellum and the Economics of the Cartridge. Now let's stop and talk about money. About the real driving force of history. Luger was not creating just a weapon. He was creating a system. And a system is a pistol plus a cartridge. And here lies one of the most brilliant and cynical business moves in the history of the arms industry. The first Luger models used the 7.65 by 21 mm cartridge from the same bore chart. But the German army, the main potential customer, wanted more stopping power. And Luger, now working at the Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionsfabriken (DWM) plant, took a step that determined the future for a century to come. He did not invent something radically new. He took the case from his own 7.65 mm cartridge, shortened it and made it cylindrical, straight-walled. Thus, the legendary 9 by 19 mm was born. Why is this brilliant from an economic point of view? Cost minimization. There was no need to build new production lines for a completely new case. Old equipment could be partially retooled. Unification. The new cartridge was simpler, cheaper in mass production. Closed ecosystem strategy. DWM, which produced both cartridges and pistols, received double income. The Army, adopting the P08, became hostage to the ammunition standard of this particular firm for decades. It's like selling a printer cheaply but making money on its cartridges. The management of DWM, with a flair for beautiful gestures, gave the system a sonorous name, parabellum, from the Latin si vis pacem, parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. This is not just a name. This is branding, marketing genius of the late 19th century. They were not selling a piece of iron. They were selling a philosophy, strength, readiness. And it worked. Today, 9 by 19 mm is the most common pistol cartridge in the world, the NATO standard. Think about it. A decision made to meet the tactical requests of the German army in 1902 still determines what cartridges are produced by the millions all over the planet. This is a scale of influence comparable to creating the A4 paper format or the 220-volt socket. Luger and DWM essentially encoded the future of the small arms industry. Chapter 3. The Mechanics of Genius. Why the toggle lock is a masterpiece and a curse. Now let's, like real detectives, take apart the most recognizable element of the Luger, its toggle lock mechanism. Imagine two hinged levers like a human elbow. At the moment of firing, they are at the dead point, almost straight, creating a rigid locked connection. The recoil makes the entire block, barrel, and bolt recoil only about 6 mm. Then the rollers on the levers ride up on special protrusions in the frame, breaking this elbow, and the bolt goes back alone, extracting the spent case. What did this give? Incredible accuracy. The rigid coupling of the barrel and bolt at the moment of firing, the short recoil, all this made the shot stable. Soft recoil. The energy was distributed through the movement of the levers, making shooting comfortable. Unique appearance. This humped silhouette became a trademark. But why did it become a curse? Monstrous complexity in production. These levers, rollers, and grooves required precision machining with tolerances unavailable to many factories of that time. It was Swiss watch mechanics that needed to be stamped in army quantities. Sensitivity to contamination. The slightest speck of dust, dirt, thick grease in the cold, and the elegant mechanism could fail. In the trenches of the First World War, in the mud of Verdun and the Somme, this was a serious problem. And here we come to the main historical paradox of the Luger. The German war machine, the progenitor of the assembly line and standardization, chose as its main pistol one of the most non-standardizable, handcrafted, and expensive products of its time. According to data from 1939, the production of one P08 took about 12.5 man-hours. Compare with about 3 hours for simpler models. Its cost was 11.5 Reichsmarks, not small money. The Third Reich, preparing for total war, understood this inefficiency. And in 1938, the Walther P38 came to replace the Luger, simpler, cheaper, more reliable. But the very fact that the Luger remained in production and in service throughout the entire Second World War says something else. It was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol, a legend that even pragmatic Nazis could not completely abandon. Chapter 4. War, Peace, and Cinema. How the Luger became a pop icon. The Luger's career is a ready-made script for a blockbuster. Adopted by Switzerland in 1900. Then, the German Navy, 1904. And finally, Triumph, standard weapon of the Imperial German Army from 1908, P08. In the First World War, it became as much a symbol of the Hun as the spiked helmet. The artillery model LP08 with a very long barrel, drum magazine, and wooden stock/holster, that's straight out of steampunk, a pistol carbine with an effective range like some carbines. But the real mythologization began after the war. Captured Lugers spread around the world. They were in America with gangsters, though in movies they more often cranked the Mauser C96. They were in the Red Army, they were used in Finland, Turkey, Brazil. This weapon saw the rise and fall of empires. And then Hollywood came. Directors needed a visual code, one line, one silhouette that would tell the viewer without words. Here he is, the German officer, the enemy. And that silhouette belonged to the Luger. Its bolt hump was recognizable from any angle. It became an archetype. In every film about World War II, from old movies to Indiana Jones and Saving Private Ryan, the pistol in the hand of the German villain is almost always a Luger. Cinema created an immortal myth. No Luger, no atmosphere. This is a crucial cultural phenomenon. The weapon ceased to be just iron. It became a media character, a pop culture icon. Collectors chase it not only because of its technical perfection but also because of this aura, this connection to big history and the big screen. Chapter 5. Luger's Lessons. What remains when the steel wears away? So why are we still talking about it? Production stopped long ago. In battle, it has long been no match for modern pistols. The answer is simple. The Luger taught the world several lessons that are still relevant today. The lesson of ergonomics. Its grip with an angle of 120 degrees was an anatomical revelation. Modern pistols strive for this angle because Luger empirically proved it's more comfortable and accurate to shoot this way. He thought about the shooter's hand. The lesson that complexity can be a virtue. In an era of total simplifying standardization, the Luger is a reminder that there is a place for engineering art, for objects made not good enough but perfectly. It is the analog of mechanical watches in the world of quartz. Less practical but infinitely more soulful and admirable. The lesson of systems thinking. Luger did not sell a pistol. He sold a system, pistol plus cartridge plus accessories. He created an ecosystem 100 years before that word became fashionable in Silicon Valley. The lesson of legacy. Its direct and indirect descendants became the Japanese Nambu, the Finnish Lottie, the American Ruger. Its entire operating principle is a tribute to that very toggle scheme. Today, an original Luger in good condition costs tens of thousands of dollars. It is an investment asset, an object of passion. And its spirit lives on in every 9mm cartridge produced in the world. It lost the war to pragmatism but won the war for our imagination. Touching the legend. So what do we have before us? Just an old weapon? No. Before us is a cultural code, cast in steel. Complex, contradictory, expensive, imperfect, but forever etched into human history. It was with soldiers in the trenches, with officers in offices, with movie villains on screen. It saw the collapse of empires and the birth of new worlds. When you look at a photo of the P08, you do not see just a pistol. You see a turning point era. An era when the world finally moved from the bayonet and saber to rapid-fire steel, when the individual firepower of a soldier increased many times over. The Luger is a bridge between the world of steam engines and the world of the atomic age. Friends, our tour has come to an end. I hope I was able to show you that history is not dry dates, but an exciting intertwining of technology, economics, human ambition, and art. George Luger was not a god, but a talented engineer who found himself in the right place at the right time with his skills and was able to edit the history of firearms. And now, it's your turn. Subscribe to the channel. There are many more such deep dives into legends of technology, weapons, and history ahead. Hit the bell so you don't miss new video investigations. Write in the comments. What do you want to hear about next? The Tiger tank? The Mosin rifle? The legendary Merlin engine from the Spitfire? Or maybe something from the world of civilian history? Your requests are my navigation chart. And the main question for today, would you like to hold such history in your hands? Do you think the legendary status justifies the technical shortcomings? I await your opinions, debates, and stories below. Bye for now. And remember, History surrounds us. Sometimes you can hold it in your palm.